We will go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to today's training where we'll review the reimbursement process and all of the forms for the SFMG program. And as I said just a minute ago, many of you have submitted forms already, and we don't have a lot of issues, but there are just a couple things that seem to pop up more consistently. So we'll go over those, and then a couple small changes that we've made. So I'll go over those as well. And we're doing this again just because I don't think we've done one of these live since the very beginning of the program. So it's just good to have a refresher and check in with everyone for our benefit as well as yours. So here is a quick look at the agenda, and we'll start with staff introductions because while you submit the RFRs to me, I'm certainly not the only one working with these. So we have other accounting staff and of course Meg on the call as well. So we will all introduce ourselves and just say a bit about our role. And then we will go into the requirements for each reimbursement. We'll take a look at the forms, talk about the submission time frame and project closeout, and then there'll be time for Q&A. So again, don't think it's going to take the whole hour. And for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Vicki Reinold, and I am the grants administrator for the SFMG program. And part of my role is working with you all to coordinate the reimbursement process with our accounting team. So everything comes to me, I get the first look, verify that everything is accurate and complete. I'll reach out to you with any questions or any additional information that I need. And then I put it all together in a pretty package and send it on to Erica and Kristen in accounting. And so Erica or Kristen, if you want to introduce yourselves and just say a bit about your role, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Erica. I've been with the county for 3 years. I am one of the three, I guess, of the accounting team here at CPP, and I mainly work with the wildfire team. So I used to do all of the processing of the invoices, but we just got a new person who will be handling all of that. Her name is Faye. But yeah, that's me.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristen Olson. I'm also an accountant with Erica. I do primarily the transportation and planning side of community planning and permitting, but I also am the backup for Erica. So whenever she needs support, I'm here. So feel free to reach out and ask any questions as needed.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. And of course, you all know Meg, but Meg, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Meg. I am the SFMG program manager and just work with all three of these gals who do an amazing job with the RFRs. And Vicki and I meet once a month and really just make sure projects and end dates and everything are up to snuff. And so we're on the same line, but really rely on these three for all the administration background, the important work. Thanks for being here.
All right, thanks, Meg. Okay, so then I will just jump into looking at the reimbursement requirements. So each time you submit a reimbursement, you'll submit to us the reimbursement request forms, which are sent to you. I send them to you after your funding agreement has been signed and in place, and it's just an Excel workbook with tabs for each sheet. So you'll complete those for each submission. And then you just need to also submit copies of any invoices that you're claiming, as well as proof of payment for those invoices. So it's pretty straightforward. And I will then, if there aren't any questions on that piece, I'll just jump right into the forms. So the first page of the packet, and again, many of you have seen it, is just the cover page. And this is, most of it comes to you pre-filled with the project information, contact information, and the amount of the award. And then as you move through your project and submit RFRs, you'll be filling out the next sheet I'll go over, which is the cost documentation form. And the numbers in that form auto-populate and auto like tabulate all the information that's being put in. So really the main with this form, the main thing is to be making sure that it's accurate before you submit every month. And if you have an older version of this that is not auto-populating or auto-calculating, let me know and I can make sure you get one that does. I think sometimes when new people come in and it gets kind of from one person to another, sometimes those links can break. But I'm happy to send a new one that's working as it should. So just reach out to me and let me know. The next one is the cost documentation worksheet. And this is where you itemize any invoices that you're submitting. So you do need, there's one line for each, as you can see here. Each invoice that you're submitting, you'll put in the reimbursement value, which is what you're requesting from SFMG, the match value, and then the total cost. As you enter each invoice, it will auto-populate or auto-calculate at the bottom, and then that does feed directly into that cover sheet. When you're filling this out, you want to put in the dates for each invoice. What dates is that covering? So if you were working with a specific contractor for like 2 months, make sure all those dates are represented here. The contractor or supplier name, if what you're submitting for is supplies or materials, and then the activity. You can't tell from this snapshot of it, but that is a drop down where you're choosing contractual costs, personnel, or material and supplies, or the fourth one is non-recipient labor. So that's for in-kind match only. So you'll choose which activity that invoice corresponds to, and then put in the amounts. This, when it comes to you, you have a space for 6 different reimbursement requests. If you end up having to submit more than that, just let me know as soon as when you submit the 6 that you do have more coming, and I'll send you a new one that you can move forward with. Any questions about this page? All right. And then this is the in-kind request form. So, the activity of non-recipient labor, this is what you'll use to represent that. So you'll itemize any activities conducted and their value for in-kind match. So right now, the Boulder County for 2026, the hourly rate is $25 an hour. So if you're submitting, for example, I'll go back to that last sheet. You can see this was a volunteer day, non-recipient labor match. The total they're requesting, and it's just match, it's not a cash value, is 3,400-ish. So on your in-kind sheet, you would just make sure that you're tracking the hours for that and how many people came out, how many hours, and it does auto calculate for you, but you'll have to then manually enter it on that cost documentation page. This is also a place if, for example, on that volunteer day, the community group went in on renting the chipper for the day, then you would just need to submit any related invoices or receipts for that expense. Any questions, or anyone else on our team want to comment or clarify anything there? All right, this is easy. Okay, so then the next form, and this one I have updated from those of you who have your packets from our first cycle. I know we're coming up on the closeout of those first 3-year grants. So I'm going to be sending out this updated version to everyone and ask that everyone uses this from now on. Tiny change, but it makes a big difference for us, is that I've added, let's see, let me look at it here. My glasses broke this morning, so I'm like really close to my screen and having to look at a larger version. So just bear with me. So the only thing that's changed here, as you can see at the very top, we want you to put in, and this probably won't change, the total proposed project acres. And then, although it can change slightly, so if that does change, just make sure you're recording it. And then the number of acres completed for this specific request. So this is the only form in the packet where this one form isn't keeping a running total. It's individual for each request that you send in. So you just like make a copy, send in a new one. And we do, because we now have an SFMG story map, we're often asked to report out on how much has been accomplished in a specific time frame. And so we really need the acreage reporting to be as accurate as possible. So that's why it used to just say like acres completed and people were often confused and it didn't always match up. So that's the main change on here. Otherwise, you're just going to put in the dates that are being represented, the number of acres treated, brief description of what was accomplished, and then if you are wood utilization, if you're able to do that, just the amounts, if applicable. So that is this. And then the main thing that often happens, one reason that this will get kicked back to you is that people are forgetting to sign it. It is set up to allow for electronic signatures, which is just, you can just type in, you don't have to print it, sign it, scan it, all of that. You can just type in the signature. And this is, in terms of the grant process, this is the county's reporting and monitoring tool. So just make sure that you're filling this out completely and accurately. And there's a space for the fuels mitigation as well as any education and outreach that you're doing related to the project and the grant. Any questions there? Okay. All right. And then, so that's the whole packet. And then along with that is a copy of any invoices that you're requesting reimbursement for. These will come to you, obviously, you all know this, from whoever you're getting services from. We need to make sure that the invoice has the name of the service provider, your organization name or your name as the project manager, the date, service description, so what's being accounted for here, and then the total amount paid. Erica and Kristen, anything you want to clarify or add on this piece?
No, I think you captured all of it. Thanks, Vicki.
Okay, great. The only thing that I'll say is that if you're submitting a paid invoice with a paid stamp on it, that's awesome, but that does not like qualify as proof of payment. So I'll go into proof of payment next, but before I do, any questions on this? Okay. So this is, so proof of payment can be several different things. What is shown here is the negotiated check. And early on, we did have some issues with this, not showing like the front and the back of the check and the stamp from the bank showing that it's been cleared. But that if you're using check for payment, this is what we need to see. Again, anything, Erica or Kristen? Okay. So this would be the cleared check. The next thing would be you could also submit either if you paid by credit card or an ACH statement. And we would just ask that on those statements you highlight anything relevant to the invoicing, and then you can always redact anything that shouldn't be shared. So just be sure you do that you're redacting what needs to be redacted and highlighting what we need to see just to make it clear for everybody. Don't think we've had anyone at this point submit screenshots from Venmo or PayPal, but that you can absolutely submit those as proof of purchase as long as it's showing both like you sent it and they received it. And then the last thing that is proof of payment, and this is if you're claiming personnel costs, I'll go to that next, is first is staff time tracking. And I know the three organizations who receive capacity funding, you're not being reimbursed for personnel because that's part of the capacity funding arrangement. But for those of you who are claiming staff time in personnel, we created specifically for the fire protection districts was how it was initially kind of conceived. And so this is, you complete the top with the dates that are being covered. Again, we just want all the dates to align. So the dates on this should align with the dates on the cost documentation form and the dates on the accomplishment form. So just make sure those are all accurate and aligned. And then how much you're requesting from us, the match amount, and the total. So that you fill in at the top, and then will also need to be input on that cost documentation form. The rest is really straightforward. I know a lot of you work with several different, we're matching grants, so there's a lot of different programs and requirements. Ours is very straightforward, and we hope simple for you to submit to us. So the information we need is just the dates, the staff position or title. We're not asking for payroll reports. We're not asking for pay stubs with people's like personal identifying information. We just want to know what was the staff role or position, how many hours did they work on a given day, and what is the hourly rate they were paid, and then it totals it up for you. This example is just obviously a pile burning project where everyone was doing the same thing, but you may have like someone running the chipper, someone running chainsaws, or it could be your grants administrator in their time. So again, the staff position aligns with whatever that role is. This is broken down by month, so you'll have to total each month. It doesn't do that automatically, and then a total at the bottom. Pretty straightforward. And I don't know if anyone who's on the call will actually be utilizing this, but does anyone have any questions about it? If you are going to be using it? Yeah, Audrey.
Yeah, so I think a part of one of our awards, or actually both of our awards, is going to have kind of principal investigator time, which is essentially the grants manager or award administrator.
Yeah.
And I know that CSU doesn't really generate like an hourly rate, like we're salaried, and we charge effort on a percentage of time.
Okay.
So how do you want us to present that on the sheet?
That's a good question. One has been submitted,
Okay.
and I took the information. They actually submitted like a payroll document.
Yep.
Project-based payroll document. And I just used the way it was broken out by like, it did total the like how much was paid for that person, both their
Salary and fringe, and
yes.
then
And so
indirect.
I put that in as an hour.
Okay, you made it.
And I just did it and so we can work with you individually on that. That was really simple for me to do. So I just did it that way. I mean, I will send this, or this isn't in the packet, and I did not send it to CSU. So I will do that, but I'm also happy to just do that. It's the way it was sent. I was able to just figure it out and make it work.
Okay.
We had another question. Emily.
Hey there, thanks. I'm going to leave my camera off. I'm working from home today and my internet is a little unstable. So I'm sorry if I missed this earlier. I just want to make sure I understand this clearly.
Sure.
So if we're working with a fire protection district to manage ignitions and burn piles for a project with SFMG funding, we can record all of those on site during ignitions. Okay, I see Meg shaking her head. Yes. Okay. What about if we're working with the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, since this is a Boulder County grant?
It would be the same. Oh, go ahead, Meg.
Well, and let me pop in, because if Boulder County Sheriff's Office, they're doing the burn piles, they're, they're not really, there's no cost associated with that. You could put that in as soft match and just track their time, right? And put that just soft, like they're almost like volunteer.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that would be that in-kind tracking form.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions about this one? Okay. So that's everything with what is required when you submit for reimbursement in terms of the paperwork. So hopefully we're keeping this, simple for you all so that we can process it easily and get you paid as quickly as possible. So now I'm just going to talk about the time frame for reimbursement. And in terms of submission, we prefer, it would be great if you are submitting your request for reimbursement within 30 days of invoice when possible. However, we know that, again, this is a matching grant. You may be working with Furworm or a federal grant or some other grant, and they may have more like stringent deadlines and timelines that you're adhering to. So you can align your submissions to us with those so that you're not having to do this repeatedly. However you use your time, that's yours, but we can be flexible. So within 30 days of invoicing is great. Um, because these are 3-year grants that, they go over calendar years, we're able to be a little flexible. And Kristen and Erica are awesome. So that's another, we're just able to be more flexible as a local grant program than some of the larger programs. With that being said, you don't want to wait ideally till the end of the year and do it all at once. It's a lot for you. It's a lot for us to manage as well. So just keeping those things in mind. Anybody, staff, want to add anything to that, or does anybody have questions about that? Great.
No, I think that looks great, Vicki. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Sure, no, good. And then once submitted, you can expect it to take about 6 to 8 weeks to receive payment. And I'll just ask, because some of you have submitted in the past, that's an estimate. Does that ring true for people's experience as an average? Anyone who's run some of these through? Or maybe we have all new people.
Don't be shy, people.
I don't want to be presenting false information. So if this isn't true, no, it's great. And I think sometimes it's sooner than that. In fact, I just got one today that was approved that I submitted 2 days ago. So that's amazing. And then, there are times when everyone is just totally overwhelmed. And as Kristen and Erica said, they don't just work with SFMG. They don't just work with wildfire partners. There's a whole lot to manage. So sometimes it will take a little longer, depending on the time of the year and all the workload. But I think this is a pretty accurate estimate. Yeah, and then the last thing with the submission timeframe is just, really verify, double check that everything is accurate. That way everything's just going through on the first go and things aren't coming back and forth. All right. Okay, and then for your final submission, this is, your project closeout, you're done, you're ready to close this out. The final report must be submitted before your final RFR will be processed. So you can send the RFR, you might send the RFR, that's done. Now you're going to write the report. That's fine, but just know I'll be holding it until I have that final report. So if that is the case where you're doing the RFR before the report, just make sure you indicate this is our last one coming to you in the email. And ideally you'd hold on to it, but it's fine. If you just want to send it, I'll hold it. And then any remaining project funds that aren't spent are just absorbed back into the large pot of the wildfire mitigation tax fund. And a couple words about that is, one, if you are getting toward the end of your project and you see you have a lot of funding left, reach out to Meg. Because if you are looking to just add acres or something that falls within the original scope of the project, just reach out and see if it's something that can that we can make take place or help take place so that you can spend those funds. On the other hand, we know that the budget estimates in your application are sometimes 3.5 years ago, and you may have funds left over. That's not a ding. We know that things change. It's not going to negatively impact your opportunity to secure future grants. Meg.
Yeah, I'll just chime on a couple things. The suggestion for your final submission is submit both your last RFR and report together. So there's no delay. If the final report doesn't come with it, right? That's again, it's a hold, and then Vicki has to reach out to you to say, hey, we need the final report. So if you can make a habit of making sure the final report is completed with the final packet, that's probably the smoothest and quickest for us to get you your funding your money. And then secondly, if like Vicky said, if you have additional funds, right, you're at the end of your project, if you're not going to use them, you're not going to use that final funding, you're not going to use that final funding. You can add additional acres, but it has to be in the same project area, right? You can't say, oh, I've got $30,000 left over and I'm going to go from St. Vrain over to Boulder Creek, right? It has to be either adjacent acres that doesn't change the scope of work dramatically or the location dramatically. So just keep that in mind. And again, no foul, no harm if the funding does not get all used up. That's kind of a good thing. So, any questions on that?
Great. And then I do have listed here just what the components of the final report are. You get a template of this with your funding agreement. And if anyone needs a copy of that, we weren't always sending that with the funding agreement. I've sent it out a couple of times. I'm happy to send it again. But basically, we need spatial data. So that's shape files of all the treated areas, the narrative report, and the questions, what you're asked to respond to are listed here. And then 3 to 4 photo sets. So if you are just about to get a project underway, just keep in mind we're looking for project photo points before, during, and after. Meg.
Yep, me again. And just so y'all know, this final report is really important to us. It feeds into our story map and our annual reporting back to the commissioners. And we use this to highlight in newsletters, news releases. So this final report just isn't busy work for you all. This is extremely important to us for our report out. So yeah.
Any questions about this? Great, then we are just about done. So in terms of submission, you will submit those packets and all of the information directly to me. I know some of you work with us in other capacities where things are submitted directly to invoicing, but in this case, as everything I discussed earlier, they just come to me. So vreinold@bouldercounty.gov, and then I'll take it from there. That is all that I have for you, and I appreciate having some time to just go over it with everyone, but please reach out at any time as you're completing them with any questions that you have, any feedback. But before we go, does anyone have any questions that might benefit the group?
Yeah, I have a question regarding specifically adding more acres to projects with having funding left over. This is now the second time it's happened to us, so thank you for being patient. But I guess just specific documentation you all need, and
Yeah.
just basics on
Yeah.
what y'all need from us to communicate that.
Yeah, great question. So if you're at the end of your project and you already reached out via an email and said, "Hey, we've got leftover money, we're going to add some acres," I would just say write a little memo, and then we'll put that into your project folder as kind of amendment to the scope of work, so that we are tracking the correct acres, and that's what's important, right? Especially, if, hey, we've treated 100 acres. Now we're adding 20 so that we're making sure. So I think what we'll do, that's a good question, Liz. I think what we'll do is just create a little memo amendment template for that if you are going to add additional acres to the same project or adjacent, that you reach out to us via email saying, hey, we're going to do that, and then we'll send you the memo template to fill out, and so we can put that into our project folder and make sure we're putting that in our tracking sheets. Good question.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right. Well, then, again, thank you for being here today. We will get this recording. We'll have our communications people make it happen. and it will be available on the website. So if you need to come back to it or have colleagues who would benefit from seeing it, just share with them. And that's it. Thanks so much, everyone, and enjoy this.